Good morning, all. My name is Sandhya Shinde. I am Assistant Professor in D.Y. Patil Institute of Engineering, Management and Research, Akudi. Today, we will cover the topic hardware virtualization. Basically, this hardware virtualization, it refers to the act of creating virtual versions of physical hardware resources and sharing them among multiple users or organizations. A virtual machine is created over the existing operating system and hardware. It abstracts the physical hardware resources from the users. In hardware virtualization, the virtual machine software is directly installed on the hardware system. Okay, so the program that is used to control the virtual machine is known as a hypervisor. So this hypervisor concept is very important. The program that is used to control the virtual machine is known as a hypervisor. So this hypervisor, it manages the physical resources that are shared between the cloud provider and the users. Hypervisor or VMM is nothing but the virtual machine manager. It acts as a control program in hardware virtualization. In hardware virtualization, a hypervisor or virtual machine manager is installed, which creates an abstraction layer between the software and the underlying hardware. Okay, so the machine on which we install the hardware is known as a host machine. It acts as a simulation environment where any guest software can perform its operation just like how it runs on the actual physical hardware. So this guest software can be any software, including the operating system. Hence, after the installation of the hypervisor, the software works on the virtual resources like virtual processor rather than the physical processors. So basically, these the type of the hypervisor are two types. The first type is the type 1 hypervisor and the other type is the type 2 hypervisor. So this type 1 hypervisor, it is also known as a bare metal or native hypervisor. It is a layer of software that runs directly on the host hardware system. It doesn't require any base operating system. Its main job is to control the hardware resources and manages the guest operating system. So type 1 is named as a bare metal because there is no software or operating system between the physical server and its underlying hardware. It is the most basic form of the hypervisor which enables the efficient functioning and excellent performance. So the example of this type 1 hypervisor are VMware, vSphere, KVM, Oracle VM, like this. Now, next hypervisor is type 2 hypervisor. It is also known as a hosted hypervisor. This type of the hypervisor runs inside the operating system of physical host system. So in this type, the hypervisor runs as the second layer, while the operating runs as the third layer above the hardware. While type 1 hypervisor, it runs directly on the hardware. So this type of the hypervisor, it includes the layer of software below which hardware is located. A typical type 2 hypervisor, it includes the physical machine, operating system. So this type 2 hypervisor install in the operating system and instances of virtual machine. So the example of this type 2 hypervisor are Oracle VM VirtualBox, VMware Workstation Pro. So what is the difference between type 1 and type 2 hypervisor? Obviously, the type 1, it gives a higher performance than the type 2 hypervisor and it directly install on this our system. It does not require any operating system. If we compare both the diagram here, the operating system is absent. So obviously it gives a higher performance than the type 2. Hardware compatibility is required. Here, easy to install and simple to run. This is used in data center while it is used by the lab or IT professional like us, we can use the type 2 hypervisor. This type is also known as bare metal. This is hosted, and hardware virtualization, and here operating system virtualization we can say. So this is a comparison between type 1 and type 2. Now, next is the types of hardware virtualization. So it has a three types. One is the full virtualization. The second one is para virtualization, and third one is hardware assisted virtualization. So the first type is the full virtualization. So the full virtualization is a type of hardware virtualization that fully enables the simulation of the underlying hardware. This complete simulation allows a guest operating system to run in an isolated instances. So in this type of the hardware virtualization, the application runs on the top of the guest operating system. This guest operating system operates this guest operating system, it operates on the top of the hypervisor and the layer of the host operating system and hardware comes. Here the guest operating system is unaware of the fact that it is running in the virtualized environment. It sends command directly to the simulated hardware. Full virtualization is very popular and it is cost efficient method. It enables the full simulation of the hardware and creates an environment that is quite similar to that of an operating system in a server. The virtual machine is capable of accessing any software that can run on the physical hardware. Full virtualization gives the facility of running an unmodified guest operating system in isolation, which gives the user a number of advantages. So we don't need to do any modification in the application to run it. Each guest server run its own operating system. So this figure, it illustrates the concept of full virtualization. So this full virtualization, it provides a feature of isolation, means all the machines are isolated from each other, and security to virtual machines, and provide the virtual machines with all service of physical system. Hence the user can run multiple different guest operating system simultaneously. Second type, para virtualization. So in para virtualization, the simulation of hardware is not done. Rather, a modified and recompiled version of the guest operating system is made to run in the virtual machine. Here, the guest operating system is aware of the fact that it is a guest and can simply issue the command to the host operating system instead of issuing commands directly to the hardware. Hence, the guest can directly communicate with the hypervisor. They need the need for modifying the guest operating system is to minimize the execution time required in performing those operations that are otherwise difficult to run in virtual environment. And the last type is the hardware assisted virtualization. So this hardware assisted virtualization is a type of virtualization that make use of the computer's hardware as an architectural support to build and manage fully virtualized virtual machine. Hence the virtual machines are created using the hardware instead of software, as it is more efficient to implement virtualization function using hardware capabilities. And the last point is the benefits of hardware virtualization. The first benefit is the economical, as with the hardware virtualization, the virtual version of the hardware is used, which is in turn used to serve multiple virtual machines. Hence, only one piece of the physical hardware resources is used. This reduces the number of hardware resources used, which in turn result in cost reduction. Second advantage, efficient resource utilization. Hardware virtualization gives us the benefit of proper utilization of the resources. Virtual machines can share physical resources among them, So in case of VM needs resources that is allocated to the another VM and it is not using that resources at that time, then the VM that is in need can share the resources with the VM already having resources. Then third, ensure backup and recovery. So in hardware virtualization, it gives us the facility of backupping the data and ensuring its recovery in case there is any disaster which may cause loss of data. And the last benefit is enhanced IT operation. The IT staff can manage various IT operations efficiently instead of taking care of hardware resources. Thank you.